welcome to the Snap UK podcast, your one-stop shop for all the NFL news, views and opinions on this side of the pond. Once more, we assemble at Chateau Green, and I am joined by Jim.
Hello.
John.
Hello.
And a returning Gary.
Hello all.
But unfortunately, we are still not whole, not complete, and not yet a united force, as Fourth and Inches disappoints us once more with his absence. This,
Oh, the joys of new technology.
Only I can hear it. I've got the headphones and I'm the only one laughing.
we know what you're laughing at. This this distress that it's causing me now needs to be discontinued at some point. I will be having words. Maybe we'll have to cut our own roster accordingly, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Sign him to the practice squad. Make him earn his position. That's what I think.
So is he just now on the physically unable to perform list?
He's been on that for about 14 years.
I think he's so far away. He's part of the international players scheme.
I think he may well be. Anyway, he claims it's to do with work. Whatever. This evening on the show, we have two things to accomplish. We have to plough our way through all the cuts as they happen and all the signings that come after the cuts as they start to happen too.
Not all of them, because there's
Oh
lots.
yeah, but the significant ones.
Yeah.
You know, not the other 17,000 players that won't be making their NFL appearances this year. And secondly, after we've been through the breaking roster news, we have to make our predictions for the season, which will be alarmingly inaccurate, stunningly boring probably, because everyone will pick more or less the same. And then there'll be Gary. So this is what we're looking forward to.
I've been quite clever with some of my picks.
Says Gary.
Well,
Jim loves one of them.
Last year we had a nailed-on Pittsburgh versus Dallas Super Bowl.
Oh, that went so well.
So yeah,
Absolutely nailed down. Couldn't miss that one.
no.
Never mind. Don't worry. I'm sure they'll both be back. Oh. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, we have to move on with Cut Down Day, which is today. It is happening as we speak. So, I will start off with the big news. You can tell me if it's not the biggest news, but I'll start with the big news from my point of view. Cam Newton, no longer a Patriot.
I really thought you were going to lead with Gardner Minshew there.
I really thought about it as well. Cam Newton, no longer a Patriot. We move ahead with Mac Jones. This is the right move, right?
It's the move.
Even the dog just went, oh.
Yeah. Hello, podcast dog.
It's a move. I'm not sure it's the right move. I think it makes sense to have Mac Jones as starting quarterback, but you're only paying Cam Newton $3.5 million for this year. He's a veteran quarterback with a lot of experience. Why not just keep him in the building anyway, just in case? Because it's not like we've not seen rookie quarterbacks get injured.
I think the reason why he's not allowed in the building is because he's probably just going to keep bringing COVID in with him. So that's got to play into it, surely, because Mac Jones has looked good in practice. Everyone's saying really good things about him. Lots of people talking about whether the Niners have made the right or wrong decision if Mac Jones comes and starts for Belichick and shows Shanahan what he could have done with that player. So I think there's lots of reasons why Mac Jones has won that starting job. A lot of people thought he was NFL ready, didn't they?
They did, absolutely.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. But why you lose Cam must be something to do with, does Cam not want to be the backup? Does Cam not want to get vaccinated? There's got to be another reason why you don't just keep him around.
I suspect the vaccination thing is key. I don't know whether he's been vaccinated, but I guess from the way they've acted around this protocol that he hasn't. I don't know that for sure.
I think that's the highly educated guess that most people
And
would
if
make.
that's the case, and he's been told, you know, if you want to be able to play for the Patriots, you need to be vaccinated.
He opened the door for Mac Jones last week.
Gave him a week's worth of practice.
Yeah, exactly. He got 3 or 4 days where it was just Mac Jones with first team reps, and then he gets a start in another preseason game to prove his worth. And from everything that even Cam says about Mac Jones, he seems to be, if he wasn't going to start straight away, he's going to be starting soon. I got this quote, actually, it's from the Draft Scout, from Cam Newton, who said he wants to be, referring to Mac Jones, he wants to be perfect. I see his preparation is always pristine. That's what I admire about him. Being at such a young age, he knows how to prepare, knows when Josh McDaniels asks questions or a person asks questions, he knows what kind of answers to have for it. He's come from Alabama, which is, the closest you can get in terms of college program to the NFL, playing with a coach that Belichick respects. So Belichick didn't make that pick full-heartedly. He knew exactly what he was getting, and he knew exactly what type of person he was getting and a quarterback who can do the job. So a lot of this is on Cam Newton, unfortunately, for reasons in terms of vaccine, but also in terms of form as well. It was only going to be a matter of time before Matt Jones probably started if Cam Newton had been the starter.
There's two things that strike me. The first thing is you could never have Cam knowing he's the backup.
Yeah.
Right? That was going to be too disruptive. So if Cam started the season and then after 2 or 3 games wasn't performing and got dropped, I think that's okay. But he couldn't be told you're going to be number 2. I also suspect that they had probably an agreement with him that if you don't win this competition, we will release you to see if you can hook on somewhere else. Maybe if he doesn't, he comes back, because I don't think you ride with Mac Jones and Jarrett Stidham. I still think somebody
Brian
else.
Hoyer?
Yeah, quite possibly.
You've got Brian Hoyer.
No, I don't think he's in the 53-man squad.
I don't think
Well,
we
on
have.
your depth chart, he's second for quarterback.
Oh, well.
And then Stidham is after.
That doesn't surprise me. Let's hope that it is him, because I don't think you should have. Thank you. I agree, he is there. I don't think you should have Jarrett Stidham. He has shown nothing in the last 2 years. So you've got to have someone, veteran presence. I'm not sure I would ride and die with Hoyer anymore like I would have done in the past, but
I think as a backup, we know what Hoyer's like as a backup. Very good in practice for the defence as well. So I think Hoyer, he knows he's not ever going to be a starter again. He's not got that quality.
No.
There's nothing wrong with him, doing that role. I think he'll be very strong in that role.
It feels to me like it's the sort of role for him where instead of if Mac Jones made a mistake and Cam is behind you, you think you might get replaced. Mac Jones is now going to be told if you make mistakes, that's okay. Don't make the same one twice, but no one's pushing you. And I think they're delighted that he fell to them in the draft. And this also leads me to the Sonny Michel being signed by the Rams, being traded to the Rams for what turned out to be a 4th-round pick because they weren't allowed to trade the conditional 5th. Is that right? Or
They'd made a prediction that they were going to get a 5th-round pick based on who left the Rams.
The compensatory picks.
Yeah, compensatory pick. Until the NFL turned around and said, no, you can't trade a pick you haven't technically got yet, which I think is fair enough. So then it turned into 5th-round pick.
I think this has been coming. They let Michelle leave, and I think this is moving away from the power run offense back to the Josh McDaniels precision passing offense that they want to run. So they built a contingency plan for last year with Cam. We're going to have to run. And now they're like, oh, we can open up the playbook and start passing again. It's a shame we haven't got any receivers, but...
Well, you say that, but you've got 2 tight ends who are good tight
1.5. One of them's definitely a bit crippled, but yeah.
And you got Nelson Aguilar who can occasionally catch a ball.
2 or 3 times a season downfield, he'll be excellent.
I think you're exactly right. It turns much more into a passing game now. They know Matt Jones has got that kind of level of accuracy which Belichick looks for.
Aguilar has bounced around the league for the last 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, he had 2 years at the Raiders, didn't he?
Yeah, and did nothing.
3 years at the Eagles. No, he was okay in fits and starts.
He was okay at the Eagles, and then he just fell away, if we're being honest.
He had some good times and good games at the Raiders. He's just not a consistent player.
No one has a consistent role at the Raiders. They're shit. So, I mean, I like Derek Carr, but, he's like surrounded by mediocrity. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the Raiders organisation.
Yeah.
But I am okay with this move from the Patriots. I like the clarity. And at some point, you've got to move on from Tom Brady and Cam Newton. Though that Brady's the past, Newton was never the future. So you might as well get on and find out if you've got the right player or whether you've got the next Josh Rosen.
I think if you're Bill, you just want consistency. You've gone from having Brady for 20 years to now. If you kept Cam, you never quite because he's not got vaccinated. It makes life so much more. Like I've looked at the rules for unvaccinated players. It is like they've made the rules so tight. Like as well, you have to even on your bye week, you have to come into the facility every day to be tested. Like they've made it purposefully awkward to get players vaccinated, and Cam's seemingly not had it. That's his choice, but it's not Bill's fault if he doesn't want to work with that.
No, I do think that is part of the reason why Belichick made this move. Obviously, he can't come out and say that because then you'll get in trouble with the players' union. But he wants a guarantee that the player is going to be available for him. If you know, 53. I know to a lot of sports fans who don't follow the NFL religiously, 53 men sounds like a lot of people to have in a squad. It's not when it comes to the NFL. And if you're going to give up a place to a player who there's a slightly bigger risk that he's not available, that's too big a risk for Bill to take. He wants a plan, he wants to stick with it, and he wants to have the players who he knows are going to be there week in, week out.
And it's not just that. When he goes down, he's like when he has a COVID alert, it takes down the quarterback room, and you end up like the Broncos playing what is it, KJ Hamler? No,
Kendall Hilton.
Kendall Hilton.
Yeah. He will forever be known as the rookie quarterback who wasn't.
Yeah. You don't want that. So yeah, it's
brief word on Nelson Aguilar last season. 16 games, 896 yards, which was his best ever, and 8 touchdowns, which was his best ever. So I think not too bad downfield. Just saying.
It's not too bad,
but he's a number 2
compared to the Patriots receivers.
Yeah,
it's not
bad. Well, and that's the thing. What an improvement he is. However, it's still just a bunch of number 2s and number 3s, and that's the concern.
Prove anything with stats.
Yeah, but you've had number 2s and number 3s for the last 8 years.
Oh yeah, since Randy Moss retired.
Apart from
Randy Moss,
Hall of Famer Julian Edelman. Just saying.
Well, but he. When did he ever get above 1,000 yards?
I don't know if he ever did.
Well, he missed the first 4 games every year
because of all the drugs. Because of all the drugs, absolutely.
But yeah, so 896 yards would probably be your top receiver for what the last 4 years?
I don't know, and I'm not going to have to spend time looking it up, but we'll let someone else do it. But yeah, so on the whole, though, we're agreed.
Does that mean he's never had a 1,000-yard season?
No,
I don't think he ever did.
That means he's not very good.
Well, that's to be debated on another show another time. Anyway, elsewhere in the NFL, plenty of cuts to talk about. I'll throw one out there, and then you guys can jump in, and we'll just try and chaperone it around. I thought it was interesting to see. Don't panic. There was no homework, Gary.
You live in the now. This is your time.
I thought it was interesting to see
I've got Google.
what Dallas have done with their quarterback room. They've binned off,
obliterated it.
Yeah, they've binned off Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert, and despite Dak carrying injuries, they're going with Cooper Rush as the only other quarterback on the roster at the moment. This is a bad move.
I don't like it.
Mike McCarthy's getting sacked by mid-season, so it probably doesn't matter.
I don't think he will be sacked mid-season, so I don't think the Cowboys do that, but I can't see him making a season number 3 at this rate.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't have faith in Dak being fit for the season.
Do you know what? I'm not as against this. I don't think they look great, either of those quarterbacks.
No, but Ben DiNucci,
was
played one game, and Jerry
Jacoby
Jones actually binned him out because he was embarrassed to be seen it.
But like
Garrett Gilbert was all right.
I think we could probably talk about it, but Jacoby Brissett, was it Brissett? No, who was it you just said had been cut?
Brett Hundley,
there you go. You can always bring Hundley in.
He's one of the worst quarterbacks we've seen in the last 5 years.
Worst.
Deshaun Kaiser.
Well, but he's about the same level as Deshaun
Ben
Kaiser.
DiNucci is pretty bad.
I was surprised at Garrett Gilbert. I thought he played okay for the Cowboys.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. Dak is the number one, but yeah, you have an injury prone now quarterback.
Can you just go and get Mariota when you need him?
Well, up to the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to cost you.
Can you go and get Blake Bortles when you need him? Can you go and get?
You can. I mean, if you know which Costa he's working
at. Andrew Luck was throwing footballs at a high school game the other day.
Philip Rivers was coaching one. Awesome.
There's people out there.
I'm not saying there are not. I'm surprised with the Dak injury problem.
I think if you've got people you don't want, why keep them? There's people of equal level you can go and get tomorrow.
I do see where you're coming from, but you have got DiNucci, who has played in that system now for one and a bit years and knows the system. I'd rather a lesser rate quarterback comes in who's got experience playing with that offensive lineup than someone who's going to come in completely cold and might not understand it.
Okay. Elsewhere in the league, anybody want to take one and run?
Shall I mention my favourite man?
Yeah, go on.
Gardner Minshew's trade.
Well, yeah.
Can you mention the trade?
I mean,
well, it's all part and parcel of it, isn't it?
Dive in, John. Dive in. Gardner Minshew traded from the Jags to
the Eagles,
where by week 3 he will be starting because Jalen Hurts is rubbish.
Yes.
Okay.
So Minshew mania
in Philadelphia.
combined with those Philadelphia
Oh,
fans.
it's going to be
I don't understand
painful.
what's happened last year. John hated Gardner Minshew.
I think he's a dick.
Say what you see, John.
I hate the cult of Minshew. Like the Minshew mania, I hated.
But he is a better quarterback than
But
Jalen Hurts.
he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And actually, I like one of the best things about Minshew is that he's very mobile in the pocket, and everyone knows the last few years the Eagles' pocket is getting worse and worse. So he
They don't even
probably
have Jason Peters anymore, do they?
no,
no.
he's
Gone. Do you go to the
somewhere
Bears?
else. Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
the Bears.
So yeah, it's. I think they need someone like him to extend the play.
Do you want
'Cause-
Minshew in your messy pocket?
I mean, as well as a Giants fan, the idea of our defensive line against Minshew is quite exciting.
But when he chews you up,
Oh, many,
It'll be
yeah,
hilarious.
it'll be
That's
hilarious.
gonna hurt.
Oh.
I don't think he will, but that would
No.
absolutely
I think we
hurt.
might have to glue a Gardner Minshew moustache onto you if he does that.
I've got there's a Snapchat filter I've got somewhere that you can do.
That's Joe Exotic, John. It's a bit different.
No, it had a Jags.
Or Uncle
Headband.
Joe, as John calls him. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a win for the Eagles. I don't think they know what they've got in Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure they know what they're doing as a franchise.
No, they don't.
But I think
They
Gardner
demonstrated
Minshew.
that when they sacked Frank Reich.
Well, yeah, Minshew,
Pedersen,
Mariota,
sorry.
Doug Pedersen, yeah.
Yeah,
they were players that were available that would be an upgrade to some rosters, including this one. So I like it. What I don't understand is from the Jags' point of view, they allowed Minshew to split reps with Trevor Lawrence as if there was a quarterback battle, and then they've got rid of him. They did.
well,
I know they did, but
it's crazy.
It was like
Why
he was
would you
trying
do
to
that?
say for weeks that it was a competition.
I think that was just trying to get value for Gardner Minshew in terms of trade value. Like that, everyone knew that Trevor Lawrence would be the.
But then give Lawrence all the snaps.
Yeah, but they wanted to try and get something back for Gardner Minshew, and they have because
Yeah,
there's
but
a team.
you
out there
got that anyway.
It's further demonstration
know
that
that.
Urban Meyer doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
Well, he's not the general manager, is he? He's the coach.
Yeah, but he's the one who dictates who gets what snaps.
Yes, that's true.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. That's all Lawrence is going to do next year is
Hand it off.
hand it off.
People can't see that.
But yeah, but he'll be handing it off to James Robinson, but not Travis Etienne, who's out
Yeah.
with the Liz Frank.
If you hand it off like that, someone's going to have to reach a very long way round.
Well,
to
John
get the
does
ball.
like a reach around, so he has got
didn't go
notoriously
very
far.
yeah, no,
You do hand off like a T-Rex, is what we're saying.
that's fine. But yeah,
Like Ellie Simmons playing pass the parcel. That's what that was. Anyway,
So, should we move on?
we should. So what I was getting at here is Urban Meyer's terrible, which I wish to bring up every week until somebody proves different.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Can we move
Yeah.
on to another player?
Go
So
for
I've
gold.
got one.
Yep.
Devonta Freeman has gone from the Saints.
Yeah, this was a surprise for me. I thought he would be good enough to crack that roster. I'm surprised he's not.
as someone who watched him last year, I'm not surprised. But it is a shame because actually for a couple of years he was really, really good for Atlanta. But basically, I think didn't one game. I think maybe even been against the Saints. He got smashed in the head by about 4 men in a fight, and he's never been the same since.
I think it highlights again how good Kyle Shanahan is as a coach because
Yes,
Devonta Freeman and that running game at Atlanta.
Ito Smith will
brilliant.
also been released.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So I think Devonta Freeman is just
Hasn't he been released twice in the off-season, Ito Smith, by two
Yeah, I
different
think
teams?
he has. Yeah, I think I
Vikings
saw him on the
and-
list
yeah.
twice. Freeman was brilliant when he was with Shanahan in a decent running system, and it's just never clicked since that Super Bowl. And
Do
since
we
Shanahan
think
left.
it's a vote of confidence for Latavius Murray as well?
Yes, and I think the issue is Latavius Murray and Devonta Freeman are very similar.
Yeah.
And Latavius Murray knows the system and is extremely versatile and extremely resistant to injury. So I'm not sure Freeman was an upgrade, but it would have been good to have two players that could carry the load. It's just...
He'll be on a team by week 6.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well,
Someone will get in. We've seen the running back stock is quite low this
Yes.
year, so someone will get injured. He'll be on a team.
well, speaking of...
Probably DeAndre Swift, and then he'll go to the Lions.
Well, yeah. Speaking of players who aren't on a roster, but it surprises me at this point, Todd Gurley's still not signed. Now, this is relevant because J.K. Dobbins is out for the year for the Ravens, ACL tear, done for the year. They're now relying on Gus the Bus. There were many, many things linking them with a move for Todd Gurley, and they've said, no, we're not remotely interested.
because
His
he's
knees
injured.
are done.
Yeah, he's done.
Knees are done.
It seems to be everybody is terrified
Jay
of Todd Gurley.
Ajayi, you know, it's just that Mark too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knees are done.
I think if there'd been
A
any
more
chance,
talented.
yeah,
version
much
of.
more talented. I think if there'd been any chance of him coming back and being fully fit, he would have ended up back with the Rams on a cut price deal, just because he knows the system.
I think he didn't do bad last year. He got a lot of touchdowns.
He got a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah,
so
a lot of goal line
They're
work.
all. It was like the Garrett Blunt reincarnated. They're all from like 1 yard, 2 yards out. You know, you
Didn't
need.
ask him to actually run.
Yeah, you need a running back to kind of get you 3-4 yards to carry.
Well, he was averaging 3.5 yards a carry for nearly 700 yards last year in 15 games. It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't terrible.
behind a shocking line.
Yeah, I mean,
Falcons line's decent.
Their defence gave the ball up a lot,
Yeah.
so the offense got to
Yeah.
play a lot as well.
Yeah.
4.2 yards career average. I still think someone will have him on their roster very early in the season because we know running backs will go down injured. We know that people know what he can do. He isn't worth signing to a long-term deal because of the injury risk, but somebody will take him and use him, and he probably will have a decent season.
There's another running back out there who you could have as well, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
Who's
he
fit.
doesn't have the
he's
injury
fit,
issue.
but
Doesn't have the injury
he's an ego
issues.
problem. I would
don't know,
rather
I
have Todd Gurley.
I think the last 2 years have quite humbled him.
Yeah, I
yeah,
would have
but
thought
do
that'd be
you
quite-
do you think that? I don't.
You don't hear of him anymore.
No, because he's not relevant anymore.
Doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but that's it. That's quite humbling. You know,
Maybe.
I'd rather take Duke Johnson or Lamar Miller, who's been released, over Todd Gurley, just because at least then it's more reliable.
You'd rather have Duke Johnson over Todd Gurley.
Yeah, at the moment. Obviously, Todd Gurley was a much better player in his prime, but right now you got no guarantee that Todd Gurley is going to see the season out. So if you're bringing in another player to replace someone who's injured with someone who could get injured next week, what's the point?
Just so you know, Todd Gurley career average 4.2 yards, Le'Veon Bell 4.1.
There you go.
It's much of a muchness. They're very similar. Their stats are very similar.
And I bet you get them both. Yeah, if you get a Simon, you get them both on league minimum wages.
That doesn't include receiving yards, though, does it?
Probably
No.
not, no.
But you think Le'Veon Bell plays anywhere this season? I'm not sure he does.
I think he's got as much chance as Todd Gurley.
Maybe. I think the attitude is an issue, and I wonder. And this is speculation, but I'll throw it out. He strikes me as the sort of person that wouldn't necessarily want to get vaccinated, and that may have a difference. That may be the
Purely
reason.
speculation.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we
But
shouldn't obviously
Why
cast
not?
out.
I'm allowed to cast out. If people won't come out and say whether they've been vaccinated or not, I'm allowed to speculate.
You can speculate, you just can't
Well,
say for sure, that's all.
I didn't say for sure. I
That's
said it was
all right then.
speculation.
Just clearing that up.
But I'm looking at him and I'm thinking he's a troublemaker and I wouldn't want him on my team, and that's one of the reasons. Moving on.
Moving on. The Lions, who've got no wide receivers, have released 6 wide receivers.
Including 2 decent ones.
Yeah, Geronimo Allison, not terrible. Rashad Perriman, not terrible. And again, back to the Aguilar conversation, they're not your number ones, probably not your number 2s. But they at least can do a job. You know, also including that, Chad Hansen, Victor Bolden, Darius Jennings, and Damian Ratley, who I've heard of Chad Henson.
Chad Henson, yeah, he's been around for years.
Yeah, but I like the Eagles. I don't know what the Lions are doing at the moment.
Yeah, they are falling apart deliberately because they've got to be worse than the Texans to get the number 1 pick.
That's just gonna take some
I don't know, this Lions roster is awful. I think Gary's next up on the receiver depth chart.
Oh, that Lions team it's like the Browns were. They've been to what, was it 2 playoffs in like 21 years or something ridiculous? It's
Maybe even longer than that.
It's ridiculous to how bad. Like we talked about the Browns and how long it took them to get back. It took 5-6 years of drafting in the top 3.
Yeah.
And then a change at GM and 2
Several
changes at head
yeah.
coach. And the Lions have tried all sorts already. They've had, Megatron and still couldn't get anywhere near it. Stafford couldn't get anywhere near it. Like, they're in real trouble. It's a terrible organisation.
I was about to say it's one of those organisations which is just badly run.
I think it's got a better emblem than the Jags, and it's got a longer history, so it doesn't get as much abuse. But they're just as bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got a worse history recently than the Jags.
Yeah, I mean, I put the Lions in with the Jets, the Bengals. We can say the Jags because we'll probably all agree on it. As just organisations who you can trust. If they're going to make a decision, it's probably going to be the wrong decision.
Yeah, I mean, they're turgid. I mean, ever since Megatron left,
Great word.
They've not. I think they got close to the playoffs a couple of times.
I think I think Stafford dragged them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That kind of edge of the playoffs most of the time, and the only reason that they didn't get close recently is because Stafford doesn't have a reliable receiver to throw to.
Well, he's getting more and more injured, isn't he? Because they can't
older.
protect him. Yeah, he's getting older. It's. I'm trying to think of a word other than turgid, but it's just turgid.
Other than
Crap.
Yeah. Other than a former first round pick at quarterback, they've got nothing. And Jared Goff, we know, cannot do it on his own. He needs to be supported.
Well, it doesn't surprise me that Geronimo Allison has been dropped.
I'm sorry, who?
Geronimo Allison.
Well done.
Because, if he wasn't getting balls thrown in from Aaron Rodgers, quite frankly, who the fuck is he?
Yeah, that's fair.
So, Brashad Perriman has apparently been suffering badly with drops in preseason. So
I had that once.
He's just made himself £2 million for 3 months' work. Good for him. He'll probably end up on a roster somewhere.
I don't know if he will. It might be all
I
over.
don't think he cares. Just go partying for the year.
Maybe. Okay, so, but generally speaking, the Lions and the Texans vying for number one, I feel.
And the Eagles.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be pretty terrible. Quickly then, the kicker merry-go-round. Why not? Let's throw that in there.
Sly's gone from the Panthers.
Joey Sly from the Panthers. Eddie Pinheiro from the Colts.
Michael Badgley from the Chargers.
Have they released Badgley today, have they?
Yeah.
Oh, Money Badger released.
2 years ago, Joey Sly was brilliant in fantasy.
So was Money Badger. Yeah,
really good.
Both of them done.
Apparently he's had a bad pre-season, but I was really surprised.
Cody
Fan
Parkey's
favourite as well.
Yeah, Cody Parkey's the other one, gone from the Browns today.
Oh, really?
Yep. And I think there was about 9 kickers released before I got here this evening. It's because there are always more kickers than there are jobs. And half of these names will be back on the roster by week 2 when people balls it up in week 1. But it's a hard life being a kicker, don't you think?
Not really.
No. Let me finish.
I'll give it a go.
I just mean you don't know where you're going to be from one week to the next. You can literally be cut like that.
But you still get a lot of money.
You've got a family and kids.
400 grand to kick a little ball. Jim Hoofs a ball. He would have a great shot.
I've seen the side of his shed. If those posts were only 8 foot tall, he'd be amazing.
But you are coming out to kick a ball from generally from 40 yards under a pressure from a load of big blokes running at you, and if you miss twice, everyone's going to blame you. You're going to be blamed for the loss, even if probably it isn't generally down to you. You are the.
But in rugby, you get to do that for maybe 100 grand a year, and you get battered for 80 minutes as well. So they're pretty well looked after. They've got their little net to go and practice with. I don't think it's a bad deal, if I'm honest with you. Is it that bad a deal?
I've often thought
no one's allowed to touch them on the field.
Yeah, but if you miss 2 penalties in rugby, you're not dropped like a stone the next day, are you?
True.
In NFL, that's what happens.
I suppose the difference is on.
Whereas if you look at Mason Crosby, who missed 5 kicks in a game, but was kept, and then last year missed none.
He had a 99% kick conversion rate.
Graham Gano was dropped by the Panthers because he started missing. Went to the Giants last year, 98% kick ratio.
Yeah.
It's amazing if you give the kickers some love, and generally as well, it might come down to money. But if you show them some, longevity, they will reward you. Sometimes.
I suppose the point is, you're not going to have a lot of depth, are you, at your roster?
No.
So if the top 16 kickers are in the league, I'll go and take kicker number 18 and give him a go. So
yeah, I think
when they decide to be a kicker, that's what they're signing up to.
Yeah,
of
course.
They know that's the.
Well, yeah, but for every young Wei Koo, there's 15 Cody Parkeys who are just going to go from team to team to team, and they're only going to ever bounce around to teams who don't plan very well.
And I get that, but I suppose they're looking at the start of their career going, okay, I might end up playing 4 or 5 years of NFL football in my career. oh no, that's going to be $1.5 million.
It's terrible. All right, so hard life was a misnomer, but I just feel that's tricky. They are one of the easiest people to cut, is my point. It must be a nerve-wracking thing for them, always. And that's not going to help with the kicking, is it, if you're worried about your job security? Right, Clinton-Dix.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Gone. Worst part of your team is your back end of your defence.
Yeah, cornerbacks and safeties aren't brilliant. The defensive line, the front seven, I think are amazing, and so much depth, so maybe that won't put as much pressure on him. But I like the move to bring him in the first place. Bit of veteran presence. Bit surprised to see him go, but shit happens.
It certainly
He's
does.
been shit for years.
He's not been. He's been
He was shit.
average.
He was a viable starter.
Yeah,
He was shit.
I like this.
It's good to see you using all your big words.
Yeah,
this evening.
jeez.
To be fair, if we had him and Sherman, it would be one of the slower backfields.
It would be, yeah.
You know, if you caught the ball, you would be gone.
Yeah, but now you've got neither. So,
Great.
great.
I got two quarterbacks to mention. One in honour of Paul.
Will Greer. Yeah, he's next on my list.
Sorry about that, Paul. I know you thought he had first round talent.
First round potential, apparently.
Definitely
Yeah.
didn't. And
Is that why he's not here?
yeah,
this week?
He's so upset. He's
in-
consoling Will
He's in
Greer.
mourning still.
He's calling Kiki Cootie, making sure. No, come on. Yeah, I just need to make sure you're still on a team.
Kiki Cusey's bad enough to stay on the Texans.
Yeah.
It's all right. And the other quarterback for the Rams, Devlin Hodges.
Doug Hodges, also on my list.
But Dwight Haskins
Gone.
is on the Dwight Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
Who's Dwight Haskins?
Sorry.
From Red Dwarf.
Dwayne Haskins. Did he
He
make
has
the
made the 53-man squad. Apparently, he has increased his professionalism off the field. And,
Wanna.
yeah, well, and displaying a howitzer of an arm was the quote. So, I mean, to be
Arm
fair,
strength has never been an issue. It's
no,
just
it
been
was
his
the
personality.
leadership, the
yeah.
ability to be on the field. Do you know what? I think they're going to need him. They've re-signed Rudolph to another year's extension as well. So Haskins is technically number 3. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see both of those and Roethlisberger play for the Steelers this year. I don't think Ben makes it through the year. He hasn't looked fit enough for years to make it through a 16-game, let alone a 17-game schedule.
I think they've got to hope that, and that's a challenging division now, but they've got to, with the Browns being as good as they are, and the Ravens as well.
Yeah, the Ravens are pretty decent.
So that's
Bengals are shit.
So the difficulty is, when do you rest Ben? If he's, because he fell apart down the stretch
When you
last
play
year.
the Bengals.
But
Yeah.
but that was the problem, wasn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
they looked great, and then he
Yeah.
just fell apart, and his arm strength just left him at the end of the season. So it's how and when do you sacrifice his rest, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Honestly, I think you'll see all 3 of them play.
And if the centre doesn't chuck the ball over his head again in the playoffs, that'd be useful.
I love it when that happens.
It's the best.
Not to my team. It's the worst thing in the world. But when that happens, otherwise, it's just always very fun.
Yeah.
The Giants showing some faith in Saquon coming back. They've released Alfred Morris.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if he's back on a practice squad.
How much more practice can this man need? He's been around for like 15 years.
I know, but yeah.
It just surprises me that you'd want to thin down a running back room when you don't really know what you're getting out of Saquon yet.
No, but luckily we have Devontae Booker in to start our season. So playoffs, here we come.
I was just checking to see if Alfred Morris was one of those players who we just thought was really old, but wasn't. He's 32, so
Yeah, he's really old.
He was at the Redskins for quite a while, wasn't he?
yeah.
Yeah, about 6 seasons, I think. And he did some time at the Cowboys.
And the 49ers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they've gone with, obviously they're expecting big from Saquon.
Well, you've got to.
Yeah.
It's Saquon or bust again.
Well, they've got receivers, but yeah, I'm not going to mention the quarterback again.
Lamar Jackson's been dropped.
The other one.
The one that plays for the Jets, yeah.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd sneak that in to see your face.
Well, we knew what you were doing.
Can I say the Browns dropped 2 wide receivers called JoJo?
Yeah, I saw that.
They did.
Jojo Natson and Jojo Ward.
Jojo Natson I like, by the way. I thought he was a decent enough little player, but yeah. To have 2
you would just talk about the names then. Prefer that name to that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That version of Jojo is better than that. But incidentally, they'd spell it the same. Capital J-O, capital J-O.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah. 2 more wide receivers dropped by team. Green Bay Packers have dropped Equiminius St. Brown and Devin Funchess in the last week. Have both gone. Big Dev, what you can do, Gary? No Big Dev to rely on this season.
Hasn't he been injured for the last 4 years?
Oh, he hasn't played for like 2.5
Since he was
seasons.
at like
yeah.
the Panthers, he's just been not
Was
good.
it the Bills for?
Yeah. But he hasn't played.
Hasn't played.
He's barely played for 3 years. Yes, Big Dev's gone. Equiminius St. Brown, though, that's a bit of a disappointment for me. He's been improving every year.
His hench dad will be really upset.
Oh, yeah, he's been massive.
His massive dad.
You feel he'll hook on somewhere else, even if it's on a practice squad. He'll be playing for
He'll be
somewhere.
somewhere.
You think the Lions could go and pick him up?
Yeah,
That's about the level of...
Yeah.
well, they got rid of Allison, so they might as well give him a go just
Absolutely.
to see.
I feel Equanimus from Browns is one of those players that was guilty of feeling the wrath of Aaron Rodgers a couple of years back, wasn't he? When he was a rookie and Rodgers just came out and slated all the wide receivers, bar Randall Cobb.
I think it was Geronimo Allison and Equanimous St. Brown that year, so not a surprise that they've gone back to the big high scores of Randall Cobb.
Jim, earlier on today, you sent me some stats about Jacob Hollister, who's been cut as the tight end for the Bills.
Yeah.
Now, there was a couple of dissenting voices, at least one in this group who were like, shock. But actually, he's produced in his time as a tight end.
He's decent. What was it? 66 catches and
Six
touchdowns in 2 years. In a position for the Bills that they're not really very strong. Like, who's their first starting tight end?
John?
I don't know.
You, John?
He was the one. He used to be at Miami.
I'm
going to look
pass.
this up.
I can't remember. I thought it was Jacob Hollister, so that's throwing me.
I still thought Jacob Hollister was a Seahawk, so this is
Charles Clay. He's
Clay.
not there anymore.
No, Charles Clay is not
He's
there.
gone. So yeah, it's definitely an area on the Bills team that is not very strong. So
Well, they did have a good tight end, but they decided to let him go to the Patriots, didn't they?
Nope.
No, it's the Titans.
Oh, the Titans.
It was the Titans, yeah. You think of Jonnu Smith?
Yeah.
Not on the Bills.
Dawson Knox is the starting tight end for the Bills.
Wow.
More of a blocking tight end.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing impressive.
That's what I do with it.
Yeah, they're gonna block and they're gonna let
I
Josh Allen run.
Jacob Hollister's caught 6 touchdowns in 2 years. That's just 3 touchdowns a year.
How many touchdowns did you catch last year?
I was going to say it's more than me.
I mean, it's 3 more than all of us put together, but
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think I agree with Jim. It's a position that's not overly strong with the Bills on what is quite a strong team. So it's similar to the Niners releasing Clinton-Dix. He's a good enough player in a position of need. It strikes me as odd. I wonder if they have someone else lined up to come in.
maybe they're just going to, maybe they're just not. It's not like they're losing that much. They're just going to do different things with the tight end.
Tim Tebow's still out there.
And will remain out there. Before we came on, Jim pointed out the Raiders have released former first-round draft pick safety Carl Joseph.
I was a bit surprised by that. I liked
So
him.
was I. Thought he was playing okay.
Yeah.
They obviously don't feel the same.
Played in 16 games last
Didn't
year.
they sign
8
him to
starts.
an extension in the off-season as well?
Yeah, in April they signed him to a new deal. So it's when we said those organisations that are run badly, let's put the Raiders in that list as well.
Yeah. I think actually they might have the worst record because I think if they had one winning season in the last
14,
I
more
think.
than that maybe. Yeah, it's quite a long time. They've been particularly poor for a long, long time, and Gruden's also on my list of not safe people for this season. I don't see them
think
going
he's
anywhere.
safe.
I think he's safe just because of his contract. But
Yeah.
we'll come on to that later.
Well, come on. Yeah.
Washington football team have released Peyton Barber, and they'll be going with some guy I've never heard of as a backup to Antonio Gibson, who is an injury risk. So Peyton Barber,
Lamar Miller as well.
yeah. I was surprised at both of them, both Lamar Miller and Peyton Barber should be released. I really like Peyton Barber.
Both flattered to deceive for most of their career.
Yes.
Lamar Miller looked great at one point, didn't he? When he was at the Texans.
Yeah, Texans.
And then he went to Miami and for a lot of money and then didn't do a lot. Is that right?
Yeah.
A lot of people go to Miami and don't do a lot.
Barber was at the Falcons, was he? Or the Bucks?
He's at the Bucks.
Bucks.
He was someone red. I'm the home of the wanky stat and all that. He played in red. So, but he was always a bit part player there as well, wasn't he? He was just another one of his bit part running backs. He's fine to catch the odd pass. He's, they don't use him much, do they? Bit of a bit part player. I think not lost a lot.
Yeah, they've still got JD McKissic there, who I think is a decent enough backup. Antonio Gibson was awesome last year, and I think they're one of the teams that have got a solid number one running back. And I think you'll see McKissic come in for maybe passing downs. But if you look at that team, you've got Curtis Samuel, who will play that kind of gadget role, kind of like what Deebo Samuel does for the 49ers. He'll probably have some carries as well. But I think, Gibson will be the number one running back there.
McKissic can do the same thing. He can catch and, be a bit of a gadget as well.
So a player that I wasn't surprised to see end up on a roster was Josh Rosen, I mentioned earlier, is now the backup following AJ McCarron's season-ending injury for the Falcons. I think this is a really good, solid signing by the Falcons. You're not really expecting Rosen to play, but at least he has some starting experience. He's probably a better player than AJ McCarron.
Yeah, probably more talent.
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about, before we came on, when we were talking about running backs, about players being humbled, Le'Veon Bell. Josh Rosen is a player who's been humbled. And if there's not a better quarterback in the league to learn from than Matt Ryan, I mean,
in the last few years, he's learned from Matt Ryan, Jimmy G,
Tom
Brady. So, if anything is going to, come...
You think that knowledge would be saturated through him, but I like the signing. I think this is... rarely do I agree with something the Falcons do, but I thought this was a sensible move.
This is kind of the opposite of what the Cowboys have done in terms of the Falcons have actually invested in their backup quarterback, whereas the Cowboys have gone, fuck it, we'll just go with Dak.
Well, they have invested quite a lot of money in their number one quarterback, so it does leave little room.
Matt Ryan's hardly poor.
Matt Ryan doesn't miss a lot of time. So, like I say, you're not expecting Matt Ryan to not be playing. But at least if the team's getting battered, which they occasionally will, you can just take him off the field and let Josh Rosen see the game out. And also then you can evaluate a player who is probably on his last ride.
I mean, he's not going to be a starter anymore, is he? So
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, I wouldn't worry too much about
that. Did you notice former 49ers favourite Nick Mullins signed to the Browns practice squad today as well?
No.
Which I think is another team that has acquired a decent backup. He's easily better than all those players we mentioned for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Well,
and got starting experience.
And has starting experience. So.
Where's Beat Hard ended up?
He was at the Jags, wasn't
he?
He's at the Jags. Oh, yeah.
He is
the Jags are the Beat Hard boys.
The Beat Hard boys.
Week 6.
When Trevor Lawrence is crushed because Urban Meyer's terrible at getting him playing.
Hot off the press, trade. The Rams have sent punter Corey Bajorquez and a 2023 7th-round pick to the Packers in exchange for a 6th-round pick.
Well, thanks for that hot off the press
breaking news thing.
Do you want some applause?
Yeah.
That's laughter.
Laughter was about right.
That's some applause there.
Jesus Christ. Punter trade news, eh?
Yeah,
Thanks very much for that.
You would already use the crickets.
You do have to wonder, how desperate do you have to be for a punter to trade for one, though? Surely they're like kickers. There are punters available.
Let's test your knowledge. Who was the kicker punter who was traded from the Ravens to, I'm going to say, the Vikings about 3 years ago?
No, it went the other way, wasn't it? It was Vikings to the Ravens.
No. Nobody would have traded for a kicker from the Vikings. I think it was for the Vikings. Anybody remember his name? He was traded for like a 4th-round pick and then didn't even make the start of the season.
I remember it happening.
I did see that a safety or someone did a kickoff the other day just to...
it's Justin Reed for Texans.
And it went all the way to the goal line just to prove it's not that hard. Just winding John up now. Just like, I'm going for the kickers. I hadn't even started on Leeds United.
He was the backup kicker at college and never got to kick, so they let him have a go.
Sorry. The Lions have released both their kickers, Randy Bullock and Zane Gonzalez.
Oh, for God's sake. They can't go into a season with no kickers. I know they're trying to suck for number one, but jeez, what an abortion of a franchise. It was Care Vedic, by the way. Yeah. That was only 2019. I thought it was the year before that.
I like to think that, the Lions are just going to no fourth down, so just going to go for it now.
From like the 12-yard line.
Because Gary Busey's got it in his head. This is going to be fucking funny. Dan Campbell, I know his real name. Dan Campbell.
By the way, Vedic now with the Rough Riders in the Canadian Football League, so that worked out well for everybody involved.
Good job.
Trey Lance has broken his finger.
He's only out for a week.
It says up to 5 weeks.
We've got Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'm just saying, is this a disappointment? Did you think he was realistically starting the season?
No.
No, I didn't either. Gary, it's a podcast. You kind of shake your head.
Oh, I said all this last week, and I don't think he was going to start yet. It might have been interesting to see how Shanahan was going to mix it up. I don't think he'd totally gone against the idea of mixing plays up. I know he kind of said he wasn't going to, but with Shanahan, you just never know.
I also think you've overblown a small chip fracture on his finger.
Just telling you what I'm reading.
He's going to miss a week.
Telling you what I'm reading. Trey Lance injured is the headline. That's what came up here. Arizona Cardinals. We haven't given them much love yet because they're going to be awful under Cliff Clinkernuts.
I don't think they're going to be
Do you
awful.
think they're going to be awful? Really?
I wouldn't put them in awful category.
I don't think they're going to be good enough to
Average.
keep his job. Is where
I
I'm
don't
going.
know. That's such a tough division to call at all. Like, I think you could
But
see.
he handpicked the quarterback and has done nothing.
I think Kyler Murray is improving
Yes.
all the time.
Agreed. But
And
they don't win.
He's got Hopkins as well, hasn't he? So
they
I
also
think-
cut JoJo Ward.
Another JoJo.
I think it might be the same JoJo, but it's just
Can we get Jim one of them JoJo headband things? Because like
I don't know what you're talking about.
And that they also were one of the teams that cut Ito Smith.
Ah, right. Yeah. Where I was going with the Cardinals talk was they have taken a step forward today by getting Chandler Jones back in the building and playing, albeit with what is said to be a big chip on his shoulder. If he stays...
How long is he going to be out without injury?
Well, exactly. If he stays, their team is much, much better because they will have him and JJ Watt applying pressure, which will be incredibly difficult for anyone to block.
Yes.
So this is the best outcome for the Cardinals. I thought they would have to trade him, but apparently they're not in the market. So this is good.
It's either that or they've got no trade offers which they wanted to accept.
But it's good that they weren't willing to bend.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, obviously it makes them a much better team. I think there's still areas of the team that need improving. I would agree that they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I think they finished fourth in the division.
It's the end of the road for Cliff.
And it could be the end of the road
I think
for
that
Cliff.
division will be decided by injuries.
Yeah.
Injuries to key players. Because I think all of those teams are capable of winning 10 games. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I think if you say that the Cardinals aren't, then
They are.
you're not looking at the whole roster.
The talent is incredible.
And it's just such a challenging division.
Yeah.
Hard schedules. It takes one injury to a key player. We see how that's affected teams in the past. I think it comes down to injuries, and that's going to be the thing that just decides whether it's 3 or 2 teams that come out of that division.
It may not even be injuries. Bearing in mind that Malcolm Butler is the cornerback for the Cardinals, is now contemplating retirement with a, quote, personal issue. Nobody has said what it is. I tried to have a look. There is no news on what this personal issue is, but he's going to be a big part of their backfield for their defence. And if he doesn't show up in a division that's going to rack up points, that's a problem for them this late in the off season. So, just saying, I suspect they have more problems to come if he retires.
Yeah.
You can't just replace Malcolm Butler.
I think across the league, cornerback seems to be an area of weakness at the moment. Like there are a few stellar cornerbacks out there, Jalen Ramsey, Stephen Gilmore. But I think there aren't many. Like I think a few years ago, you could look around the league and see quite a few cornerbacks, and every team would have one, maybe two starting cornerbacks that you'd be like, yeah, they're quality. I don't think there is that at the moment. I think that there's a slight dearth of quality there.
That is the right word, dearth.
Yeah.
Dearth, yeah.
Dearth. We've had dearth and turgid this evening. That's awesome. Gary got to throw in a good word at some point. Dodecahedron.
Squalor.
You boys have got it. It's got a nice rhyme to it as well. It's almost onomatopoeic.
Oh, very nice.
Oh,
Look at him.
beautiful.
He's turned up. Where's the round of applause button? Can't remember which one it is now, can you?
I don't need that.
Nope.
No, not that one. John, maybe label the production button.
This is going to make great listening.
We've only
will.
just found this today.
It will. Right. A few more things to get to before we move on to the predictions then. The pup list is ever growing. The physically unable to perform list.
Oh.
Apart from Paul, who's on it.
I heard pub list and I just went to FHM.
That was the puppies list.
Yeah.
Not quite the same. Stephen Gilmore won't be playing till week 7. Physically unable to perform and a bit pissed off with the Patriots. So that's one seriously good cornerback down. David Bakhtiari won't be starting the season for the Packers O-line. This is bad news.
Duncan, our friend, after hearing that news, responded in the WhatsApp group with a very sarcastic gif saying, "Oh, awesome."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not ideal. They do have a good O-line. They can probably withstand this, but it's not ideal.
He didn't finish the season with him, did he? He got, it was
He tore his ACL, didn't he?
You know,
in
so it's-
December. So
and they did all right. So
They have been raving about their backup offensive lineman.
Give me his name because I forget.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Jenkins?
Yes, it was Eldon Jenkins, who has been playing left guard for them. They have said he's...
I don't even have a laptop to refer to at this point, by the way. I've done very well.
Now you need to find the applause button, John.
That's the right button. Well done. We'll make a producer out of you.
Good job. So yeah, hopefully for their sake that he can come in and be vaguely okay.
Now let's see what Bot and John wants to go with next. The Deshaun Watson update.
Yeah.
I hope I got that right.
Was that the laughter one?
No, that's the wah, wah, wah.
Oh, God. Well, he wants to go to Miami.
He can want to go where he likes. Nobody's going to give up 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for him.
I'm not sure you're allowed to cross state lines, are you?
And this might be a problem. It looks like they're going to carry him on the 53-man roster because he hasn't been put on a commissioner's exempt list. So they're going to have to keep hold of him. They're effectively going to play with a 52-man squad.
Apparently, the owners are not particularly happy about paying a sexual deviant $10.5 million to do nothing.
Alleged.
Thank you, James, the lawyer in the corner.
Thank you, dumbass.
So it's a problem, isn't it? He clearly wants out and wanted out.
Yeah.
And apparently they're asking for, is it 3
Three
firsts
first
and 2
rounds,
seconds?
yeah.
Now,
they might have got that when he originally asked for a trade.
That's a terrible plea deal, that is.
But even they might have got that when he originally asked for a trade. Might have. I still think that would have been a lot to ask for Deshaun Watson before any of the legal issues.
I did see a Brian Flores interview where he very carefully denied whether they had or hadn't had discussions. He wasn't prepared to talk about it at all, or any of the conversations he may or may not have had with Tua, which basically meant we talked to them and it was too expensive.
Does it not strike you that what's been asked for apparently is protection from the commissioner? So basically, several teams have approached the league and said, we will give up these picks, but if he isn't able to play next season, we want the trade nullified.
Yeah.
I think that sets a really dangerous precedent.
Yeah, no,
I don't think the league can do that. I think they need the team to make a decision. It's no different to if your top asset gets injured and he's out. That's it. You're done. You've lost him.
I don't understand why he's not on the exempt list.
No, I don't either. But I think
that would be the easiest solution,
they're
wouldn't it?
desperately trying to force the Texans to make a decision.
But if you did that, then does he get paid?
Yes.
Yeah, he gets paid.
He gets paid.
Yeah, but it means that they can replace him on the roster, right? They don't have to carry him.
I think ultimately that is what will happen. Because I don't think anyone's going to trade for him without the protection of the picks, and I don't think the commissioner can give that up because it sets too much of a dangerous precedent. So that's Deshaun Watson news. We should move on from him quickly because it's a nasty business. One more quarterback to get to. Steady Teddy has won the job and will be starting for the Broncos. I think it's the right move because the roster is loaded and he will just game manage them up and down the field and won't turn the ball over as much as Drew Lock.
Yeah.
I'm not at all surprised with this.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and it's probably the right decision. But I will say, if you're a Broncos fan, how annoyed are you going to be of the Broncos hierarchy that you had the chance to pick Justin Fields or Mac Jones in the draft and you chose not to because Drew Lock was there?
Yes. It's not a good look, but why would you be surprised that Elway did that? He has done nothing except
that wasn't Elway. That was the new GM.
Yeah,
because
Elway's
he's getting Rodgers in 12 months.
No. Elway is always looming over whatever anybody does.
That's the reason why. Because Rodgers will be there in 12 months' time.
Possibly so.
So this season it might work out. But if not, next year probably will.
Yeah. I think you could be onto something there. I really do. Any more?
I've got 2 great quarterback stats.
Go for gold.
So first one, the last 3 quarterbacks to start from Alabama are all starting in week 1 of the NFL this year.
Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones.
It's not difficult. It's just pretty impressive.
Okay, no, I was just checking that I knew who we were talking about.
Yeah. I just thought that was impressive. And here's a good one. It's just the second time since the AFL-NFL merger that 3 rookie quarterbacks are going to be starting in week 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't very often start week 1, do they?
It could be as many as 5 as well. Lance could start. Justin Fields could start. Both seem unlikely.
Yeah.
But you never know what happens. last week. So
I think they just like to take the pressure off. Like, why, why not
Yeah.
play them till week 3 or 4
I
if
think
you can?
I agree they could start. I don't think they will. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
any more for any more?
Prediction.
Gentlemen, it is time for that part of the season where we hopelessly predict the future, cross our fingers and hope we don't look stupid 9 months from now.
Yeah, it looks stupid 9 months from now.
However many months from now, maybe. Not even 9. 4.5. I mean, I'll still look stupid in 9 months, but 4.5 months from now. So, John sent round the yearly quiz, effectively. Predict your, and then whatever
Season.
the outcome may be, yeah. John, you can lead us through this, because I haven't got it in front of me. My laptop has died, and I did not bring my charger.
Fair enough.
I'm working blind, effectively, which is also how I made my predictions. So that's kind of apt.
I can give you them.
You've got them. You have collated, and you are prepared. So obviously, we can start at the top and work down, or at the bottom and work up.
Should I start at the top? Because basically, the first question was, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
It's a big question.
It's the main question, isn't it?
It's why we're all here.
It's not why I'm here.
No, I'm here to talk.
I came because I wanted a kebab and not to get told off by the wife.
I'm here to talk sack leaders, but anyway.
I turned up to slag off Paul.
You left disappointed again.
Anyway, okay. So who's going to win Super Bowl? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first if you want.
Yeah, go on.
So
That's the most enthusiasm you've shown all show.
I know, yeah. I'm not actually that enthusiastic about what I've put because I don't really like them. But I've gone with the Rams.
Oh,
so
man.
Left field.
It's a little bit left field, and the way I've looked at it is Aaron Donald must win a Super Bowl.
That's the rules.
Simple as that. Jalen Ramsey is also epically good. Stafford is much better than Goff. So, actually, why can that team not get back to where it was when it made the Super Bowl and had a great chance of winning? So, yeah, it's a little bit left field. But when I think about the teams who could beat the Bucks, it's got to be a team from the NFC West. Who do I think has probably got the most complete package this year from that division? I think it's the Rams.
I really hate it when Gary makes a really good argument.
It's a very good argument. It's actually one I was going down a similar line of thought myself.
I never considered it one bit.
No, neither did I.
Brilliant. And that's what makes this so fun. Jim, who did you go with?
Paul. John. What are your names?
Buccaneers.
Went with the Buccaneers.
You've gone for the repeat.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was the Buccaneers or the team I chose to lose the Super Bowl because I flipped it a couple of times. I just think with all the quality on that side, I agree with Gary. I think someone from the NFC West could beat them, but I just think with all the quality they've got, all the returning starters they bring in, and the returning coaching team, and a slight lack of COVID this year, they started off last year badly, and they got better as the season went on and finished on a high. And I think we said it a couple of weeks ago, and we said it after the Super Bowl. It wasn't really down to the offense in the Super Bowl. It was that defense, which in the playoffs just suddenly exploded. And I think some of their younger players have got a year's more experience now, and I think will just be better for it. So I found it really difficult to look past the Buccaneers.
I had 3 teams in the running, and the Bucks were obviously one of them.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have had them far outside the Super Bowl, right?
No, but I haven't gone with them.
Who have you gone with, John?
Bills.
You've gone for the Bills. Now, that's interesting because I've gone for the Bills to lose the Super Bowl.
So did I.
To the Packers. I went with the Packers. This was before the Bakhtiari injury. But I think it's written in the stars. Aaron Rodgers, one big 2 fingers up to Green Bay, win the Super Bowl, retire. Done. I really do.
I mean, I'd like to see it.
So would I. But you think the Bills?
Yeah, I like them. But yeah.
Be more concise with your argument. Sound good like Gary. He has someone write that script for him. You know that, right?
Me. Josh Allen, I think, is just very exciting. The offense, Stephon Diggs, I think they just make.
Is the defense good enough to win a Super Bowl?
Well, that's the big question. I think it can be.
I think it's all right. I think the
Does all
offense
right win championships? I don't know. I'm not trying to goad you because I am famous for doing that.
Well,
I'm just asking, like
Famous is a
the
big
Chiefs.
word put in there.
The Chiefs beat you guys, and their defense. The Bills' defense is better than theirs. I mean,
Yeah,
they
it
don't.
probably
They
is.
don't have Mahomes, but if you don't have Mahomes, Allen's the next best thing. Their offense is more rounded than the Chiefs, and when I'm looking at who can beat the Bucks, I can really only, in my mind,
enough
think
of a
of
running game outside of Allen.
That's the one thing I saw. On
So
the
they would be
Bills.
my two things:
Yeah.
the defense and those running backs.
I think it's more the running backs. I think that the Bills have improved on offensive line. I think that will help the running game.
Yeah.
I was disappointed to see the Bills not pick up a running back in the draft of any note, but they probably know more than me.
And
Probably.
the last year I thought it was important for them to get the sort of playoff. I know Josh Allen at that point had only been to one playoffs, but he had an awful second half. And you can look at Lamar Jackson and say there's a playoff hoodoo, and that's no longer the case for Josh Allen. So yeah, I'm going big with the Bills.
I really like your pick. Like I say, I've got them down losing the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's who I had.
No one picked the Chiefs.
Chiefs, my losers.
It was between the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we're
So
close.
my three teams that could have won the Super Bowl were the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Rams.
Yeah.
They were the three. I think the Bills are not quite there. That's just me.
Yep.
And I think Packers, the depth in their roster is not strong
poor.
enough when you look at the other contenders. And they had a great season last year, but are they stronger than last year?
Matt LaFleur has lost 6 games in 2 seasons and doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
Nope.
And I just think Aaron Rodgers is coming again with another season of look what I can do.
My only thing with the Packers is I think this sounds really stupid. You can beat them.
Oh yeah, you
and
can.
you can beat them with the right coach. Like if you've got a good running game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have like all these clever points to throw in and say this, that, and the other. I just feel.
Just a gut feel.
I just
Went with
feel
your gut.
this is the Aaron Rodgers Goodicunts. Here's my middle finger. I'm going to win the Super Bowl, and then I'm
It's
still leaving.
almost like you're saying Aaron Rodgers is too good to only win one Super Bowl.
Yes, could be.
Yeah.
Why not? I like the theory. I looked at the Bucks. I looked at the Bucks, and I thought very few teams repeat. Like we saw, the best New England teams didn't always repeat.
We saw how good the Chiefs were the last 2
And
years.
they didn't. The
repeat.
Seahawks. That Seahawks defense was amazing. They didn't repeat, and I just think,
Ravens didn't repeat.
yeah, I don't know. You can beat somebody just because it's an off day. If they have that off day in the playoffs, then they don't repeat. So, and I don't know with the Chiefs. Yes, they're brilliant. They're fun to watch, but is it the best team? No, it's not the best team.
I just feel with the Chiefs, you got I want to see how that new offensive line plays.
My first reaction was the Chiefs, but then
Same here, actually.
I changed my mind to the Bills when I remembered basically it's Kelsey and Hill, and I haven't seen the rest of the offense
Yeah,
yet.
the O line needs to mesh quickly.
And then in terms of losers, then, so I had the Chiefs. Jim had the Bills.
Yeah.
I had the Bills.
I went 49ers
Yeah.
Bloody heartbreak again.
Do you know what?
just because I want to see it. But I think that front seven in the defense is, if they can keep them fit, that is so disruptive. And I think Shanahan can draft a offensive plan to beat anyone.
And when you went to the Super Bowl before and lost that time, the lights went out. Remember that heartbreaking year
against the Ravens.
with him that we don't mention. You'd actually been playing Alex Smith half the year. So when Jimmy G gets pulled out of the lineup halfway through the season and Trey Lance comes in, you won't miss a beat. You just carry on. I've got you down for the playoffs. I think you nailed on.
MVP.
Yeah.
I did actually look up the odds, and I think we were fourth
Fourth or
favourites.
fifth, I think. Yeah.
We were ahead of the Rams.
Yep.
In terms of the betting,
Way ahead of the Seahawks.
I think we might have even
I can
been.
understand why we're ahead of the Seahawks, because Seahawks look terrible on paper. The Rams? I'd put us level pegging with them. Anyway,
MVP.
So it goes the Chiefs
Oh.
5-1, the Bucks 7-1, the Bills 12-1, the Niners 14-1.
And one day we'll give Gary lessons in how to take directions on moving on the podcast.
MVP.
MVP.
I was looking down.
You were MVP for the 5th time. John.
So I've gone with Mahomes.
Did you just copy my answers?
Yes. I was the first. I was the first
I
one.
don't
to
have
answer.
my answers in front of me. Who did I go with?
You went with Josh Allen.
I did go with Josh Allen. You're right.
Based on my pick for the Super Bowl winners, I've gone with Matt Stafford.
Could well be.
I went Mahomes as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on that. If he wins it, unless he is better than the last 2 years, it will be it's Mahomes.
It doesn't have to be better than the last 2 years. It just has to be better than the rest of the league.
I just think he'll be better than everyone else.
I just don't think he will be.
I think Josh Allen is second place to him at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the gap between Mahomes and Josh Allen is quite wide.
Okay, so the next one is Defensive Player of the Year. Oh, Gary, you didn't pick your MVP.
MVP, Gary.
Stafford, I said.
Oh, you
Oh,
did.
sorry.
Sorry, yeah, apologies.
It was so forgettable. We forgot.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean,
Next
If
up.
I picked him to win the Super Bowl, he's probably going to throw 45 touchdowns. So
That'd be impressive.
I
mean-
wouldn't rule that out, actually.
No. And I'll look like a genius for picking up Cooper Kupp for the 4th year in a row in
Yeah.
fantasy.
Although in week 3, when his running back's gone down with his asbestos knees again, I mean, don't
could
know.
be.
But anyway, Defensive Player of the Year.
I've gone with Jalen Ramsey. Got his big contract last year. Looked great already.
Well, I know these two went exactly the same.
Gilmore's out for 7 weeks, isn't he?
I can't remember.
I haven't got a clue.
He went with Myles Garrett.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Because Jim loves an edge rusher, and I thought, what would Jim do? No, I think the Browns are heading back to the playoffs this season, and I think the defence is going to carry them there. I think that defence is epic.
Yeah, I think Myles Garrett leads this defence, and I think he's got a perfect running mate in Jadeveon Clowney. I know we give him a lot of stick, and he doesn't get many sacks, but that just means that Myles Garrett gets more sacks.
I went with TJ Watt.
Which is fair.
That was my second choice,
That's
actually.
fair.
I think he
No one
probably
went
has
to Aaron Donald.
no.
I just
Yeah,
don't think
that's
he'll win
fair.
it 2 years in a row.
Yeah. He is consensus best defensive
Yeah.
player in the league, but yeah,
I think TJ Watt. I think probably hasn't got the love he deserved because he's been playing for a couple of years in a stacked defense, and actually it's not as good as it was this year, which means that he'll stand out more.
Cool.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are always going to be well coached on defense, but the stars around him have depleted. So, offensive player of the year, because bizarrely, even though the MVP is always an offensive player, they always have an
This is
offense.
probably where I went for Pat Mahomes, but I actually don't remember.
You did, yes.
Hey.
who did I go for?
You went for your fantasy favourite.
Alvin Kamara.
You did.
Yeah, I just want to jinx him.
I've gone with McCaffrey.
And I went Dalvin Cook.
Now, I know that we're going to get to McCaffrey in a minute, but I think that's a good shout, and he would be second on my list.
Yep.
As long as he comes back from the injury properly.
I just think that there's nothing else in New Orleans other than Alvin Kamara now, so
Panthers is pretty similar.
We didn't mention it, but Michael Thomas also on the pup list.
yeah, exactly. There's nothing else in New
So
Orleans other than
letting Jameis loose as the number one is just going to be a catastrophe.
I'd almost be tempted to pick Alvin Kamara again in fantasy.
You won't be because you're picking behind me.
Even better, it saves me that dilemma.
So, offensive rookie of the year.
Well, I went Trevor Lawrence because
I've
it
also gone
goes
Trevor
to a
Lawrence.
quarterback and he's the number one quarterback.
Please tell me I didn't put Trevor Lawrence.
There's
You
no
did not.
way you put Trevor Lawrence.
You went Trey Lance.
I did go Trey Lance, you're right, because Trevor Lawrence will be on his ass by the time Trey Lance comes in to start.
Well, this side of the table is not picking a jag, is it?
Trevor Lawrence probably will win it because
Matt
he's
Jones might win it.
Yeah.
maybe, but I couldn't pick Trevor Lawrence. I genuinely think if Trey Lance comes into your lineup before week 6 or 7, I think he's on a winner.
If Belichick gets the Patriots to the playoffs, does Matt Jones win it?
I think if we get to the playoffs with Matt Jones, there's a very good chance he wins it because he will have had to have played really well.
I might change my answer then. I've just talked myself into
And this
it.
is the thing, but now we're getting some certainty. It changes a few things.
Yeah.
Sorry, just on the more cuts, the Raiders have released John Brown.
What? Smokey Brown?
Yeah.
Well, I'm betting you the Patriots sign him up by the end of
wouldn't you?
tomorrow. We should definitely have John Brown.
Wow.
I love bet John Brown.
I went with Carl Pitts.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
nice,
that's a
like
good
that.
shout. That's a good shout. He could be epic, or he
Yeah.
could be really disappointing.
He could be completely bang average, but yeah, that's
Good shout though.
So defensive rookie of the year,
I'm sure I must have gone for Patrick Surtain
I have
Patrick Surtain.
Quitty pay.
because he only ever picks edge rushers.
You're going to love my next pick.
So comeback player of the year.
Go on.
Nick Bosa.
Obviously, I went for the aforementioned Christian McCaffrey.
You did.
good shout. I have gone for Philip Rivers.
When he comes back to play for the Colts.
So he may well come back to lead a playoff charge for a team
If he does he go into the Hall of Fame?
if he
Yes.
wins.
If he gets the team into the playoffs, coming back halfway through the year.
Well, or if he'd have to get to the Super Bowl, I think. I'm being quite harsh, maybe, but
Well, can I mention that the Colts are having real trouble with their vaccination numbers?
Yeah.
So so there is quite a strong chance they might need another quarterback.
Well, Ellinger's out for a few weeks, isn't he? He's sprained his ACL.
Something, yeah.
He sprained something. Carson Wentz is looking okay, but he's probably not 100% fit still. So
That leaves Jacob Eason.
yeah, who?
Because they cut Brett Hundley.
Yeah,
Not that
well,
matters.
there's a surprise. But Jacob Eason flattered to deceive. He was okay,
Yeah.
but you're not going to win many games with him, I don't think.
Being okay in preseason is like being bad in regular season, though.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Philip Rivers then.
Yeah, I went with Nick Bosa. To John's point on the defensive front for the 49ers, yes, that could be epic.
Yeah.
And that could allow Nick Bosa to be an absolute beast.
Yeah. No,
Fair play.
And I thought about that and went with Derwin James.
yeah, also good shout.
Equally good. Yeah.
So I hope it's 2 years he's been
It's
missing
such a
now.
shame we don't have Paul's picks here. because
Well, I tell you now, Paul would have picked Derwin James.
Yeah, but that'd have been the only sensible pick he could make out of the whole lot.
Would have been, but he does love Derwin
Sure,
James.
you would have gone with CJ Anderson.
I mean, it was, yeah.
His
CJ
comeback player of the year would undoubtedly have been Alex Smith again, just because he deserved it twice.
But yeah, no, 2 years out, I'd love to see him back. And quite frankly, if the Chargers want to get to playoffs, I think they need him. So, receiving touchdown leader.
I remember which one I went for this. I went for Stephon Diggs.
You did.
Well, that was a good pick. I think I went for... Did I go for CD Lamb?
You went with DK Metcalf.
DK Metcalf, yeah.
I'm going with Devontae Adams.
And I think all of these are great picks.
And you went
And I forgot, and I went with Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen?
I just really like Herbert.
So do I,
I
but
think Keenan Allen's a decent pick.
Kyle Pitts might have been another good pick for this as well. Tight end.
I
no
think-
Julio.
I think there's a real chance the Chargers go backwards this season. They haven't added a lot to that team.
Didn't need to, I don't think.
I think they need to be well coached.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully.
Derwin James coming back
They,
is quite a big add.
they added a new coach.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's see how that works out. But
Basically, I would just, in my mind, I just also wanted to show Justin Herbert some love because I think I'd really like him to have a really another good year.
so would I. But I
Are you
just think
saying that Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback, and if you were offered the chance to trade him for him, you'd take that?
I would, yes.
Cool. Chase?
Yep. Okay, rushing touchdown leader.
McCaffrey, I've gone with.
Did I go Delvin Cook?
You went with Cook.
I think
You
I
also
went
went
with
with Cook. I went with Derrick Henry.
yeah, Vikings. That's all they've got. They've
Yeah.
got Dalvin Cook, and
They've got two good wide receivers,
Jefferson.
but then they've got Kirk Cousins throwing them
that's
the
what I
ball.
mean.
Yeah.
Their best option for winning is Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
He just needs to stay fit.
And McCaffrey scores. The reason why I went with McCaffrey is because unusually he does the goal line work and he scores touchdowns.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
further out as well.
Receiving
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he does everything. So, yeah, I think that's a good shout. But I think Dalvin Cook, if he plays 16 games or even 14 games, so
Yeah.
I think that's enough. Derrick Henry's the obvious choice, but can you keep doing it? Can you three
Well,
seasons in a row is a lot?
I think kind of now they're going to split reps between Cook, AJ Brown, and Julio Jones as well.
You mean Henry, Julio, and
Yeah.
AJ Brown?
What?
What?
You said Cook.
Who did I say?
You said Cook.
Did I?
Yes,
Oh.
Right back.
I misspoke.
you did. Anyway, moving on. I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm paying attention. Go on.
Sack leader.
I have no idea who I
Can't
picked.
remember.
Come on. This was yesterday.
Well,
I know.
who did you go for defensive player of the year?
Quite
Miles
Miles
Garrett.
Garrett. Miles Garrett, yeah.
And who did you go for?
Miles Garrett.
Well, you went for TJ Watt.
Yeah.
And that's so did I.
Okay.
which is how I reckon he'll be.
I've just put Bosa.
Any Bosa. Any
I think-
Bosa
I
will
think
do.
that's-
Two for one.
I think that's his cleverest answer.
It is. Any Bosa will do.
Unfortunately, I'm disqualifying it because you need to be specific.
It's a surname.
He's gone for Gary Bosa.
Yeah.
I can't decide between them, so I'm just going Bosa.
He works in the sack stitching factory.
Jim told me that was a clever answer. I was allowed it.
I think it's his cleverest answer so far.
I'm calling bullshit. I mean, it's a 50-50. Actually, do you know what?
When they're both out injured by week 8, it won't matter.
So, yeah, you have gone with Clive Bosa to be the sack leader.
And?
Who did you go for?
TJ Watt.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's fucking class.
Good justification,
He's
absolutely.
pretty decent, yeah.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
I went Sean McDermott.
You did? Yep. I know.
I don't know.
You've already said you think he's underrated.
That's half the coaches.
Matt
in the league.
LaFleur.
Oh, yeah, Matt LaFleur. Well, yeah.
You've got to go for the team who you said is going to win the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I've gone for McVay.
Yeah.
All or nothing.
Matt LaFleur needs some love, man.
Yeah. I've gone with Carl Shanahan.
Yeah.
He has lost the cap, hasn't he? So,
that's true.
looks like a grown-up now, at least.
I tell you what, though, if Gary's thought about the Patriots getting into the playoffs when Mac Jones happens, Bill will be back in the running just because it's nepotism. Not necessarily because he deserved it, but people will be desperate to give it to him.
No, if they get back to the playoffs,
Obviously, if the Bucks win, it'll be Arians again.
yeah.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Well, okay. Team picking first in the draft.
Texans.
Texans.
Lions.
Texans.
I think I went
You
for
went
Lions.
Lions.
I think they're going to be worse. I do. T-Mobile's an all right quarterback.
I still think he's worse than Goff.
Yeah, but their wide receiver unit is better than the Lions. Their running back's better than the Lions. No, nobody's having it. Fair enough. Okay. I honestly think the Lions are desperate to pick number one, and they haven't got any kickers. You've literally just told me they've cut all of their kickers.
Listeners, if you rewind about 30 seconds back to Griff's argument there, you'll be able to hear the tumbleweed.
Yeah. If John knew which button to press, you could hear the tumbleweed.
I'm not going to press it.
No, he
Yeah,
doesn't know
it's-
which one it is. No, fair enough.
It's not tumbleweed anyway. But yeah, if it's not the Texans,
It's the Eagles.
yeah.
Really? You think the Lions are better than the Eagles as well?
Yeah. I mean,
I
this is
respected your opinion at one point.
First coach fired.
Mick McCarthy.
David Culley.
Zach Taylor.
I've gone with Zimmer.
Zimmer. Oh, good shout.
Yeah.
I think it'll be Big Mick. I don't think he's going to do anything exciting at all with that team. Jerry Jones will lose patience.
Mike McCarthy.
Whatever. He'll get injured.
Yeah, Mick McCarthy.
Who's Mick McCarthy?
The old
The Cardiff manager.
Cardiff in Old Island.
He will also get
He had a
fired.
fight with Roy Keane.
He gets fired quite a lot. All right, Mike McCarthy and Mick McCarthy are both going to get fired.
Oh, that'd be a bet, wouldn't it?
It would. I might put that on. In fact, I'd rather have Mick McCarthy in charge of the Cowboys because I think he'd do a better job.
It would make the Hard Knocks a lot more
Yeah.
entertaining.
Just
I haven't even
Down the
bothered
side,
watching
I
it.
just calling Dak Prescott a bastard.
Mike McCarthy's he's not a modern day coach. He's not up to scratch.
Much like
Spent
Mick
all that time in
McCarthy.
his garage with his mates. Like, it sounds like us.
Catch it, you bastard.
They're being coached by Sean Bean.
That's just every Yorkshireman. And will any games be called off because of COVID?
No.
No.
I'm going with yes.
I think they'll force teams to play, even if they have to
Yeah.
play Kendall Hilton.
Yeah.
Kendall Hilton will be getting the call.
They did last year, didn't they? They just made him run around scared.
But yeah.
You're playing the what's more likely scenario. Like no games got called off last year, so there's a chance.
Yeah.
I just don't. I can't see
I
it.
think there'll be some disruption. I think there will be some teams where, like, oh my god, the whole offensive line's injured. We're going to have to bring in, I don't know, Todd Gurley to play left tackle. But I don't think
It'd be great if they just rolled out all the coaches because most of those guys are still big lads.
Rex Ryan at centre. But yeah, I don't think there'll be any cancellations.
I can't see Dan Campbell passing a drugs test. That man is on the finest Colombian, I guarantee.
He does seem a bit that way.
That was all our questions. If you want to let us know your thoughts that we put out, I put it on the Twitter. It's just a Google form, so get involved at the Snap UK.
We will all be wrong, which is very disappointing.
I don't think we can be more wrong than last year. the
Steelers and the Cowboys went
Steelers
nowhere.
Cowboys was such a bad pick.
I can't think who we had for MVP. Surely one of us must have got that right. Somebody must have picked Mahomes or...
I think we all went Mahomes. I think a couple of people, I think someone even mentioned McCaffrey. So, yeah. I at least picked the Chiefs to win, so they got to the Super Bowl.
I think I picked the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think I went Chiefs Saints.
Yeah.
A few people went for the Saints last year, I think.
Yeah. I mean, has anyone got any outlandish predictions beyond what I've said?
Saints not to make the playoffs?
Well,
Is
I
that outlandish?
I don't think that's outlandish.
I wonder if this might be Peyton's last year.
That's...
I don't know. Has he got the heart for a rebuild?
I'll tell
Because
you
it is a rebuild that's
Tell you
needed.
what, I could see him leaving New Orleans and going to Dallas.
Yeah.
He's got history. He's got history with the Cowboys. He worked there under Parcells. There's always been a few rumors about that happening, so that could be something that actually happens. At the end of the year.
I can't put him in as being fired, but because you just
I think
couldn't
it'd
fire
be
him. But I think this might be Peyton's last year.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I don't have anything particularly outlandish. I think I've said, I believe was it last week we were talking about would any of the coaches be one and done? I said to John, if it's not it's not Mike McCarthy that's fired first, it'll be Nick Sirianni, because I think that Eagles team will be bad, and I think they've ballsed it up. I think they've made the wrong pick.
So I went between David Culley and Nick Sirianni, just because they're both first year coaches. Feels like they're both out of their depth. They're not the. When they were hired, no one went, "Oh my God, that's an amazing hire." Most people went, "Who?" I think that's a good enough reason for halfway through the year an organisation as bad as the Texans to go, let's start again now.
To be fair, when you put David Culley, I then did have to Google who he's the coach of because I forgot.
Do we think that the Jets are going to be any good because their injuries have not helped them?
So we didn't mention the Lawson trade because they had to acquire. Now, which Lawson did they have to acquire? Shaq Lawson.
It's Carl Lawson.
Because Carl Lawson got injured.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I don't think the Jets will be terrible, but I'm not expecting masses of great things out of Zach Wilson because the surrounding cast isn't brilliant. I think they'll be more competitive than last year. 5 or 6 wins probably, but that's a tough division because the Dolphins will be better, the Patriots I believe will be better, and the Bills will probably be very, very good. So they're still going to be fourth.
Yep.
It's a bit like the Cardinals when we were saying earlier, like they're just sort of stuck, and unless they make a massive leap forward, how do they overtake anybody? And that's the sound of the podcast dog in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And Coco. Oh, he's laid that one in there.
Wow, you're lucky she doesn't listen to this.
Can't think which one. No, that was the applause. No.
Just playing with all the buttons.
But Tish.
Anyway, anybody got anything else to add before we sign off from what has turned into chaos now the dog is back?
I've got nothing.
Nope.
Oh, it's our actual fantasy drafts this weekend, so we can next week.
Many people have fantasy drafts.
We can report back on that.
I am already not looking forward to this season.
Oh, I am.
I'm always
you
looking forward
guys
to it.
have all done mock drafts. I have done none.
I love the drafts. I hate week 2.
Do you know what I would say? Is that mock drafts they're useful, but they are also very frustrating at times because
incredibly so.
Because people leave the draft early and teams go into auto pick and people they're just going in there to pick 3 or 4 players and they're just not picking accurately, so they end up being a waste of time. And we are a bunch of weird guys with some really, really strange people that play in our league, and they just pick random people, so you can't plan for anything. Because Perry only knows about
12
players, so if he can't get them, he just sees what's at the top of the list. Someone will probably fall into auto pick because my Wi-Fi will kick out and people will kick off at me. That's roughly how it's going to go down.
I know that Paul is going to be on Saturday night. He is going to be in the middle of Wales without a good Wi-Fi signal, so he may slip into auto
I was
pick.
just about to say, you can often get some mock draft rooms where people deliberately go in and pick someone crazy just to throw off the order. I always like it when that happens, just based on the people that are playing on it. Like, oh, good, it's realistic at last.
All summed up.
Yeah.
Mahomes has gone fourth.
Yeah.
Well, don't. I've
Michael
had
Thomas has gone in the third round. Chase, he's not playing.
no. Literally, I did my work draft quite early, and Mahomes was in the top 4 picks.
Madness. On that maddening note, it's time to sign off for the evening. So I thank you all very much for listening, and I say good night.
Good night.